We have some strong feelings about ironing, don't we? Let's take a look at my ironing setup and one of my favorite patterns. Whether you love ironing or it is the bane of your existence, it is a critical part of sewing. I learned that firsthand with my last video feature, the resolution bottoms. We sewed a pair of those together, and as I was cutting out the pattern, I had a lot of feedback about the state of my fabric. So I just wanted to assure everybody I absolutely do iron. And my setup that I've got for ironing is, I think, pretty great. I'd like to recommend my ironing setup, and I'd like to recommend some of the things that go along in my ironing setup. And I just wanted to emphasize the fact that a recommendation from a fellow sewist means something. And I know that in all the comments, everybody is being silly and sweet and, maybe joking around, but also a little bit, serious about the importance of ironing. And there's some people who don't iron much at all when they're sewing, and there's some people who iron every little minute thing step by step by step. And I just want to say both approaches are completely valid, but it's the recommendations that mean something to people. And in a world of AI and bots, and you never really know where something is coming from, and if someone is really a real person, having a real person make a recommendation means the world. And it's becoming more and more rare these days. I think all of us can agree. I wanted to recommend my sewing setup and also give you a little bit of a recommendation or an opportunity to make some recommendations as well. So before I get into our sewing and ironing setup and make a couple of in your sewing studio space recommendations, I'd like to offer you a time to make some real human recommendations for fellow sewists, because those are the things that really mean something. And in order to incentivize making this recommendation, we are offering our viewers a chance to win a printed out lookbook. This lookbook people have been going crazy for, and we do have a plan to let people have at it during the upcoming site-wide sale that we're having. So stay tuned for more news on that. I'd like to offer you the chance to get one of these lookbooks sent to your house for free if you make a recommendation on any of our current sewing patterns, any of the ones that you have in your account right now. So how does one do that? All you'll need to do is log in to your Love Notions account. Then you can click on any of the patterns that you have. You can just go to the download section and you can find the pattern listing. If you're logged in, you're able to leave a review. It's a verified review, so we don't just have random people dropping in their 2 cents on patterns, but we'd love it if you would leave a review. We have hundreds and hundreds of reviews from real people, and those sorts of real person recommendations really make the difference for a small business. I appreciate so much every person's time that they take to give a real recommendation. So you are able to leave a review on any of the patterns that are in your account, including the ones that you got for free. For example, the classic tee might have been a free pattern that you got, and you can go in, log into your account, and pop onto that listing and leave a verified review. And we just so appreciate your genuine feedback on these, because it makes shopping easier for other real people. And we're in the business here of serving real people and not feeding into an AI machine of any kind. So everything's real here at Love Notions. So as you're doing that, you might want to also take a gander at all of the patterns that you do not currently have in your account and wish list any of those. All you have to do is click on a pattern listing and then click that little heart, and it will add it to your wish list, because Love Notions site-wide fall sale is approaching very soon. We did things a little bit differently this year as far as timing. So we have pushed back our typical October sale to November, and that's going to be very fast approaching. So get that wish list in order and drop a review. And any reviews that are made between now and our site-wide sale starting, you'll be able to enter to win a free copy of that lookbook that people have been going crazy for. Let's take a look at my ironing setup and one of my favorite patterns. Sloane pullover and hoodie. This is like your classic sweatshirt pattern. And I probably have sewn this pattern at minimum 10 times. And it always seems to be the base that I use when I want to do a really cool hack. So I was about to put this Sloane sweater on, and then I was like, oh, I really should give this a good press before I show it off. Switch out from my Geneva, which is what I'm wearing here right now. I just love this fake. It has the kangaroo pockets. I even put in a little tag that says you can't buy this. And it's got the hoodie. It's got like the crossover part of the hoodie. And it is in this really cozy bamboo sweatshirt fleece. So the inside is really nice and cozy too. It does have the cuffs on the sleeves, and then I did sew the hemband. I just had to put this onto the ironing board and get it set. And while I was doing that, I was like, you know what? Our ironing or pressing setup is pretty great. I bet some people might want to know this amazing little cart. And I just wanted to break it down for you, what we have included in that cart and why we think it's important to have it there. We have our ironing board. It's just a standard ironing board. We did order a special ironing board cover from a seller on Etsy, and we love the vibrant colors here. It kind of matches our whole aesthetic, I feel like. But the other really important part of our ironing setup is this cart. This cart makes it so handy to move around to where we need to in the studio, to put it beside or alongside the ironing board. This cart has made things really easy. Now, we do have a studio with a wood floor, so it's very easy to roll it around and so super, super useful. This is from IKEA, and we originally got these, I believe, during our 2018 retreat. We ordered a whole bunch of them. I think they were like maybe $40 when we originally ordered them, and this looks like zero wear. It has been so sturdy and useful and really functional for our studio space here. So on the top level, this is our iron. This is not your typical iron that you would use for just like at home, right, for a sewist. I believe that they call it, it's not a gravity fed iron, but it does have, so there's a reservoir at the bottom of the iron setup, and the water from the reservoir goes through this tube. And this makes it really easy to deliver steam where you need it when you're sewing. The iron is called Reliable. It's from the brand Reliable. It doesn't get too hot. It heats up pretty fast, and it does have an auto off function. Sometimes I wish that the auto off function lasted a little bit longer, like the stretches of time between turning it off were a little bit longer, because when you're sewing, you're constantly coming back and forth to iron. So otherwise, I think this iron has been pretty great. It's got 3 or 4 levels, and then a steam function, which you can trigger at the handle. What I really, really like about this iron as opposed to a regular home iron is that it has this base where the reservoir for the water is underneath, but it has this base where you're never having to tip the iron up at any point, and you're not leaving it on your ironing board. Leaving it on your ironing board is just like a recipe for disaster sometimes, because it will fall off of the ironing board. It just is not very secure or safe. And so I love that we can leave it here on this metal base with like silicone pads. It works perfectly. So this is a Reliable iron, and I totally recommend it. Another thing I recommend is having a spritz bottle or Best Press next to your sewing station. I think some starch is a great idea when you're sewing, especially something like Aria button down. It's great to have a little bit of extra stability to your fabrics if you're sewing with like a rayon challis or something that's a little bit more finicky. You're going to want to have some starch in sight. One of these bottles I think is actually just filled with water, because sometimes it's nice to have just like a real direct little spot to spray, and you just need a little tiny bit of water to get through. So that's what's on the top tier of our ironing space here. Okay, on the second tier of our cart right here, we have a couple of things that we think are pretty handy for ironing. First thing is a pressing cloth. This is actually one of the ones that I think Tami bought from like Dritz or something. It's labeled a pressing cloth, but you really could just use a cotton fabric. Like a quilter's cotton would work fine for most projects. I think this one has a little bit more durability inside of it, but you could just pink the edges of a regular piece of cloth that you trust that won't overheat and that will kind of absorb some of the extra heat if you're using like a really sensitive kind of fabric. But a pressing cloth is always useful when it comes to your sewing setup and your ironing setup. Another thing we have are our tailor's hams. These are objects that are pretty solid, cloth covered. I think it's flannel and cotton covered bolster kind of material. And you can put sleeves in here and press curves really easily. If you want to know more about making your own tailor's ham or anything else about using a tailor's ham, we actually have a post on the blog that might be useful for you. But I find these really, really useful for pressing anything with a curve to it. Really, really helpful. Like a collar is hugely important to have one of these hams as you're sewing, and I use these all the time. The other thing we have is just a couple of cups and just like things to fill up the reservoir for our irons. And then on the bottom, we have another pressing mat that Tami uses for doing tutorials. Sometimes it's nice to have a pressing station right alongside of the cutting table. So she uses this sometimes. And then she also has, if she's using her other iron, she has like the cutout for resting the iron down there. And then the last thing that we have alongside on the bottom tier here for our pressing station is just a steamer. Sometimes it's nice to, maybe not while you're sewing, but just when you're getting the wrinkles out of some things, it's nice to have a steamer, so we keep that down here. I really recommend this particular steamer. I have one of them at my home too, and it's super useful. So we typically store our cart over here in this corner between my sewing machine and Tami's sewing machine. And we have this pegboard up here with a couple other items that we use regularly for pressing. And one of those is this handy piece right here. It's called a hot hemmer from Clover, and it allows you to measure at the same time as you're like pressing up a hem, doing anything else where you need to press to a very specific measured place. I love being able to use this as I'm measuring out something because it can take the heat. It's like a nice sturdy material, and it's not going to transmit heat like something metal would, and it's a ruler without all of the pitfalls of a regular ruler, I guess. It's essentially like a ruler that you can press on. The other thing that we have up here is just a lint roller, because as we're pressing, sometimes there'll be like threads there, and it's nice just while things are at the ironing board to just go over them with the lint roller. We also have some just like generic stuff like hem tape, and we can insert into the things that we're pressing. Another thing that we often have near our ironing space is metal pins. When it comes to sewing with wovens or sewing things that have to be pressed very precisely, and I want to be able to go over that line that's pinned, I like to use metal pins, so we keep those handy by our ironing space as well. So I am just about to lose my light, so I better get pressing my Sloane sweatshirt so that I can show you today's feature pattern. Both the Sloane sweater and its companion pattern, the Sloane girls pattern, are just $6 today only. And they are a great piece to wear as like a matching set with your resolution bottoms. So I totally ran out of time, and I lost my beautiful light that was coming in. So I'm dealing with these horrible fluorescent lights that we have in the studio here. And if there was one thing that I could give Sewist for sale on our website right now, it would be the gift of time. Because I know that we all have lots of patterns and lots of ideas, but we don't ever have enough time to get them all done. So I hope that you make some time for sewing in the next coming days and that you enjoy this gift that we've all got. Such a gift to be able to sew, great thing to be able to sew with confidence and to use the recommendations of other people to make thoughtful decisions as we sew what patterns we're going to sew, what tools we're going to use, what processes or techniques that we're going to use. It's a really big gift to be able to get that from each other. So thank you so much for anyone who has given us a recommendation. And we're so thankful, especially for people who log onto the website and leave a review or recommendation for one of our patterns. It means the world. I'm wearing my Sloane sweater, as you can see here. I was able to get it pressed up, and it is truly one of the patterns that I sew the most, especially as a base. It's so cozy, and it's a great match with last week's resolution bottoms. By the way, if you do have some time, mark your calendars for this Tuesday. Tami and I are actually going to be coming on here on YouTube Live, which I don't think Tami's ever done, and I've only done it a couple of times. We're going to be coming on live to sew something new with you. It's actually a pattern that's very limited availability. We're going to sew it together. This is a pattern that's going to be perfect for the holiday season. We're going to show you how to use it. There's like an extremely limited quantity of it, but we just thought it would be a super fun, special thing to do as the holidays are approaching, and so that you could see one of the new fun things that we have. It's a pattern that is actually great for the entire family, and we're going to be offering a really special deal for it. So make sure that you mark your calendars for Tuesday. We haven't picked the time yet, but I'm betting it'll probably be around like 11 or noon or so. Make sure that you follow, like, subscribe, do all the things so that you get notifications here on YouTube for any new content that we've got down. So see you on Tuesday for something special.